get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
I almost want to drop the word assimilation, because to allow people to bring themselves to work. You don't have to assimilate. Bring yourself as you are. Bring your hair. And I don't know about you, Alicia, but I know friends of mine who people would touch their hair. Can I touch your hair? Because it's a different, and it's just, sometimes they wouldn't even ask.
Yeah, it happens.
Without even asking.
Yeah.
And I've seen it even, actually, I'm going back a long time now, but even when I was pregnant, people who touch your stomach because you're pregnant, it's no, you are, and you're there's a boundary. You don't need to actually touch someone's hair to kind of and make it. I know, right?
And you should see the ritual I do before, like Infocom, kind of like preparing myself for that to happen, because it happens all the time. We just gravitate to it. They just they want to feel it. They want to, like, what is this, right? So it's like I always prep myself for that to happen.
When they say, is that actually your hair?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's educating, you know what I'm saying? And like most of it is actually controlling my emotions to respond in a professional, accepted manner, I guess.
So how do we encourage our colleagues, our peers? What would you like them to ask you? If you could say, to kind of understand your background, what you're bringing, what you at the end of the day, we're all human first. That's my kind of, I'm so passionate about that we are human first, and we should celebrate the things that we have in common first. But the thing that makes us unique are our differences as well. So they should be equally celebrated.
I think they should Google touch a Black woman's hair. Don't ask me anything about it. Google it and see what the results come up with, and you'll know if that's appropriate or not.
But the problem is, like, many don't think about it, right?
So no, they don't.
How do we get that information out? Like, what's acceptable? Like, we people of color are constantly trying to do things that are accepted, but vice versa. That's not top of mind for others that are not familiar with the culture, or familiar with the way our hair looks, or familiar with certain things, right? So how do we educate people on that?
Who's responsible for the education, I think, is the question. Like, are we responsible for the education? Because I would say no.
Right.
Because we've taken the responsibility to learn it the other way, right? We've taken the responsibility to assimilate, and that's why I want to get rid of it. Come as you are. Bring yourself. Bring your culture. Bring your religion. Bring it all. And you're right. It is about education, but then there's the excuse, and I've heard this a few times. Is, oh, but we're not allowed to say this, or we're not allowed to ask, or can we just get it out? Just ask.
Yeah, at this point, I'd rather have open discussion or dialogues to get to know each other better than, I guess, to then use the excuse. But that's just my perspective. I mean, Sule, Alexis, what do y'all think about that? I think we're just hiding behind, we're tiptoeing around a lot of subjects instead of addressing them head on. But how do y'all feel about that?
So I think that when I look at a topic like this, a couple of things come to mind. So one is that people just don't know, right? I've got a daughter, she's 25. I know that she has had that same issue of the touching of the hair thing. By the way, there has never been any white person that has said, can I touch your, for me as a male, can I touch your hair, right? I'm not saying that has never happened perhaps, but I think definitely when it comes to Black females, they get it all the time. And can explain why. But in looking at this, something that you had just said, Ifat, was understanding, right? And I think it is more about understanding. On the education side of things, I don't know that it's an education because it's different communities, different cultures. You get brought up in different ways, and the issue that I see in this regard is that for us, we are not, we grow up we don't actually make the effort to get to know them. We have no choice, basically. And we grow up in, quote unquote, their world, right? Now, if I go back to like Nigeria, and we've got over 400 different languages in Nigeria, and the different ethno-linguistic groups that exist within Nigeria. Me growing up, I'm from the northern part of Nigeria, and even in the northern part, there are these different, call them disparate, right, groups that exist that don't speak my language or speak my language, but with a dialect, with in a different dialect. In growing up, we were pretty much we went north and south. We lived in the south, so you come into contact with a different, they speak different language. They look different, right? We're different in looks. It's almost like for a lot of people when they look at Asians look the same to them across the board. But when you live in a country in Asia, you start to discern how different the features actually are. And that's the way that it is in Nigeria as well. You go somewhere else, you're like, oh, look, they look different and they speak different. What I'm getting to is that there is something to be said for, I wouldn't term it ignorance, except for when you are deliberately not really interested in someone's inherent right to be human. And when you're asking, for example, can I touch your hair? You're doing it's demeaning is how it comes across, right? As opposed to doing something to celebrate. And I think those are two different things. And I think to me that's the issue. So on the one hand, I don't blame somebody for being curious. But on the other hand, it's all about how you're approaching satisfying that curiosity. And I think that's the key difference, is that it comes across as demeaning. They're not asking to touch the hair to celebrate, and they're asking out of wonderment, like, what is that? What, if they touch you, the blackness will come off, kind of, that kind of thing. So I think that's why it affects us so much, and they don't realize it in saying it.
I love that.
I was asked, I was asked once if I got a suntan.
If I got a suntan? Oh man.
Get a tan.
I mean, Alexis, though, I feel like I want to hear what you have to say, because I'm sorry, this is your show, but I'm like soaking all this in, learning from them, and I'm getting excited here.
No.
I agree with Sule. I think that there's a difference in having curiosity, and there's a difference in I just want to pet you. That's that's how it. And you're right. It may not be the intention, but that is how it feels. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah.
And I sometimes wonder if it's that. You said you don't want to use the word ignorance, but I think it is ignorance. I think it's laziness and it's ignorance, which is, I find it really hard to forgive that.
I think laziness is, I think laziness is a good word. I think that's a good word, because literally, you, like Alexis said, go on Google, Google it, you know, before you even do it. So yeah, I do think that there's a fair amount of laziness there as well. Yes.
I think if you don't understand, oh, go ahead, Alicia.
Go ahead, Alexis, because I was going to ask you something, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think if you don't understand something about somebody's culture, whatever it is, you don't, you do your research. You don't go to visit another country and you have, or another city or another state, however you want to look at it, but you don't go to another part of the world to visit without getting the information about what is acceptable in this country. What is you know, the best way for me to behave, or for me to ask for something that I need in this country, or you learn the phrases of the language in that country to be polite. Yes, thank you, please. You know, you learn those things, and it's research. And so I don't think that it should be any different culturally. If you genuinely don't know the answer to something, or you have a question, or you are curious, there's some research that you can do to get that answer before you know, before asking somebody. So that, I think that's one thing. And then you know, I want genuine connections, friends. I want people who just want to get to know me, and that don't care about, you know, my ethnicity or where I'm from or my nationality, that just don't care about that stuff. They just want to get to know me as a person, as a human being, in fact, like you said, you know, because that's what we are. And so I just want those, you know, genuine connections like that.
I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.